What's going on, guys? Welcome back to the channel. Welcome back to a Spider-Man custom video. And today we're going to be working on making a Mafex version of the Advanced Suit 2.0. Before we get started on Spider-Man though, I wanted to shout out All the Art Studio. I accidentally referenced the wrong person last week on who made this Toby Maguire head sculpt. If you need a Toby Maguire head sculpt for any of your Spider-Man figures, make sure to go check him out if you want to buy one. But anyways, let's go ahead and get started. So I started off with the CT Toys Spider-Man. I was really surprised. I've been buying these knockoff Mafex Spider-Mans for a while, and it's very surprising seeing them get this good. Before, back in the old days, I guess, a couple of years ago, they were absolute garbage. But these ones, I've been buying a few of these to do some customs with, and I have another one coming up. But my only problem with these CT toys are they're just small for no reason, I guess. I don't know what the actual reason is that these are smaller, but this guy's like half a head smaller than the actual version, which really annoys me. But luckily this kit I got to make this Advanced Suit 2.0 Spider-Man promised to make him the same height as the Mafex. So we'll see in the end how well that actually worked out. I'll go over all the pieces this kit came with, and I'll show you more of those in just a second. But this chest piece comes in two pieces that you glue together. Here's the waist piece with all these details punched in for the actual suit. And then these shin pieces, everything too fit together so well, and like all of the joints are pretty much just put into the sculpt, and they actually pop together well, which I did not expect. But I was really excited about that because I didn't have to swap too many pieces over from the actual CT toys, like the actual like plugins and stuff. The feet come in two pieces, so you have that toe articulation, and it comes with all the hands that you would want: pointers, punching hands, whipping hands, relaxed hands. The only thing that's really missing is wall crawling hands, but these relaxed hands can work as wall crawling hands as well, so I'm not too messed up about those being omitted. It also came with this head. I don't know why the head was cast in a different, or printed in a different color. Maybe it's from a different kit. And this head is just a little bit small, I think. I think just slightly bigger would have been better, but it does work well enough, and I can always buy another head if I want. But like all 3D printed parts, you want to make sure you sand everything down first, or especially just sand down the parts that could rub. You don't want those rubbing off after you've done all your paint work. So I knew this ab piece was going to have some paint rub against the trunk, so I made sure to go ahead and sand around here. So here's all the parts kind of fitted together a little bit. I put in the ankles and the wrist pegs just because those are super thin, and so I didn't want those to break later when I have some paint gummed up in those holes. So I wanted to go ahead and get those in right now, so I don't have to worry about that later. They all popped in perfectly. I just held them with some pliers, heated them up with the hairdryer, and popped those in. And then for this chest piece, I was really surprised about how well this actually worked together. This part was a little bit worrying when I ordered the kit. I didn't know how it was going to fit together, but you can see it has the gap for you to actually use the CT Toys articulation setup here. This is what's inside of the chest piece for the CT Toys, and I assume the Mafex as well. But to get this out, I just heated up the chest piece, and I went along the back with an X-Acto knife and just cut up like a seam so I could pull that articulation setup out. And then for the feet, since they were two pieces, it didn't really have a way to connect them, but luckily I had these like finishing nails, and so I just cut one end off with my pliers, kind of the cutter part of my pliers, and then heated up the feet and slid that through. And then once that cooled off and I had enough room there, I just cut off the other end to put them back in. I primed everything with this Mr. Surfacer. This one's a little bit expensive, this primer, but it fills in gaps. So for 3D printed parts, you don't have to do as much sanding. So I went back and primed it again with this Vallejo white. I repainted this guy like 4 times over the last month. I didn't know how to go about painting this. What worked best for me is priming him white and then masking off all of those parts that are gonna be red or white later. I just used some like blue tack mixed with silly putty, like 50-50. I feel silly putty's really good for masking, but with that blue tack added in, it helps it really stick really well. And it doesn't stain your parts like blue tack sometimes does. But I used Viking blue from Army Painter, and once I got all that blue tack silly putty mix off, you can see the lines aren't very crispy here. They're kind of messy, but I can touch those up with hand painting them. I just wanted to get a nice even coat of blue over everything so it all looked uniform. I went through and touched those up with my paintbrush, just hand painting those, and I wasn't really too worried about getting them perfect yet because I still have to paint the red on, and I know I'm gonna mess that up somewhere, so I just kind of got it as close as I could, and then used this pure red. I really watered this stuff down and did like 5 coats of it all over all the red parts. This took like 4 attempts of me painting this whole thing, not liking how it looked, stripping all the paint off and repainting. I kind of jump around a lot here, but you can get the gist of what I'm doing here. Is I'm just trying to paint each part separately. I think that's just one of my critiques for this kit, is that the web lines and everything are very shallow, sculpted in, so I painted it all separately just to try to get that red on as thin as possible to not lose those details. I wanted to try something different here and use this Tamiya panel liner. This is for like Gundams and stuff to kind of add in those details, and it's supposed to really help and make everything easier so you don't have to do a wash. I guess it would kind of do the same effect as a wash, but this one you can target more towards just getting in the panel lines and not affecting the color of the rest of the model. This stuff was really cool, and it did go on really well. It does work exactly as advertised, but the only issue here is the web lines were so shallow that this panel line was really having a hard time just sticking to the web lines. So it did just end up looking really messy on these 3D printed parts. But the parts that were not 3D printed, the panel liner really did work really well for those. So I think there is a specific use case for this, and if it's not perfectly set up to work with this panel liner, then it's gonna have a hard time giving you really good results. But this stuff probably would be good for other, maybe if the details were a little bit deeper in the model, it'd work out a lot better. But it did give me a nice clean kind of guideline to go ahead and hand paint all those web lines, so it wasn't completely useless for this project, and I could see myself using it in the future as well for these Spider-Man, especially if it's a kit I make and I can kind of adjust those web line depth to help out the panel liner. But once that dries for about 30 minutes to an hour, you can use this X20 from Tamiya. It's just enamel paint thinner, and put it on a Q-tip, wipe away most of that, and then you can just slowly wipe away the excess panel liner off the model. Make sure you clear coat this, your paint job, before you start doing any of this, because the enamel paint will immediately pull off that any kind of water-based acrylic paint, or any kind of acrylic paint, I believe. The enamel paint thinner will just pull that straight off. So you want to make sure you use something like Mr. Super Clear or something like that to give yourself a nice kind of barrier between your paint job and this, so you don't just ruin it immediately. But you can see the parts that did come with the CT toys, the panel liner did a little bit better job. The parts that are 3D printed, it didn't really make that big of a difference, but in person it did give me enough of a difference there to kind of have a easier job painting on the web lines by hand. But probably that was the most annoying part of this whole process, was painting those web lines on. I really don't enjoy this tedious work, so this part did take me a while, but I just used a really thin paintbrush, the thinnest one I can find at the store. I used, I believe, probably Vallejo Air Black on this. That's what I usually use for my black paints, and thinned that down with a lot of water, and then just took my time. Of course, my camera didn't focus during this. That's my bad. I didn't notice that until now, but it is just going through and slowly adding in those details with this really watered down black paint. After all those web lines were on though, I probably should have done another coat or two of that. It just, like I said, took me forever to do those web lines, so I was kind of over it at this point, and I moved on to painting the white. White paint is very difficult to get on clean. You definitely want to water it down like always, and make sure you use a good white paint. This is probably a Vallejo Air white. I can't remember exactly which one I used for this. Make sure you invest in some really good white paint, and you'll save yourself a lot of struggle in the long run. But you can see I'm getting the head sculpt all done here. One thing I didn't show with the body is that once I got those web lines on, of course they weren't perfect, so I used my not focused camera to show you how I went through and painted in those panels, the red panels, just was another coat of that paint to kind of clean up my web lines, and also I lightened up the red a little bit, once you hit a clear coat on something, it has a tendency to make it a little bit darker or sometimes a little bit brighter. But in this case, the red was a little bit too dark. So I went through with a little bit lighter shade of red and touched up all those panels. But here's the body all put together. I didn't show where I did these panel lines. I just followed the Hot Toys Spider-Man and tried to match their suit a little bit. And it had these kind of darker panel lines all throughout. So I tried to replicate that here just by adding a little bit of black to my blue that I had used previously. And trying to paint on something that looks kind of close. There's the feet too. Those I didn't get any footage of because those were the first thing I did, and those are the ones that I had to redo the most. So, but you can see luckily there's no real chipping or anything in the movement here, and I posed this guy up a lot and there's not really any kind of paint rub. So I did a good job sanding, and this kit was a good job fitting all together. For the head though, I stole the joint from the actual CT Toys Spider-Man. I don't even know if it's glued in. I just heated it up with some hot water and I could pop this straight out. And then I'm gonna slide on the new head onto that ball socket. So that way I have an actual connection there and it feels like an actual figure. Because usually when I use blue tack, I don't know. I like blue tack, it's just not my favorite for neck joints and stuff like that. It just doesn't feel permanent as one of these. So I filled up the head with a little bit of hot glue and then just slowly pushed it onto that ball socket and adjusted that while it was still hot until I got it somewhere that I really liked. And that way it actually feels like it came on the figure, and I really like not having used blue tack when I don't have to. So this worked out for me. But after that, here he is all done and completed. This took quite a while. I think I ordered this kit back in like October, so this one has been a project I've had in the background for a while, but I'm really excited to finally have him done. That Marvel Legends I had really wasn't cutting it, and this kit helped make the CT Toys actually about the same size as the Mafex. The head's a little bit small, like I said, but I think overall the proportions and everything match the Mafex so well. So this looks like a legit Mafex figure on the shelf, minus some of the not probably perfect web lines, but you know, from a distance he looks perfect. But here he is in some poses. Thanks for watching, guys. This guy was really fun to put together, and now it has me going down to like a Spider-Man video game rabbit hole. So I might do some other figures in the future. I ordered a Miles. I don't know if I'm gonna make a kit to kind of fit on that, or if anybody knows of a good kit to convert him into a more accurate PS5 Miles. Let me know down in the comments. And I also ordered the ZD Toys Venom, and I'm working on a kit to make him bigger and match the PS5 Venom. So make sure you stay tuned for all that on my Instagram and here. And once again, thanks for watching, guys, and I guess I'll see y'all next time. Bye.